Hello, this is Jon Speelman with an audio version of, and a visual, I suppose, audio visual version of the latest column, which is coming out tomorrow as I speak, which is on Sunday, November the 15th. And I'm just going to check that it is recording. So let's go, and yes, it is. Good. Sorry about the little silly screen for a moment. So a fortnight ago I did one of the most violent games of my life, which was a game against Tony Miles in the British Championship in 1975 in Morecambe, I think it was it? And then another very bloody battle. And what I've said is that, well, I like hacking. I hack or hackery, whichever you like. And I've called it a few hackers more just for fun. I couldn't think of a particularly good title. And there we are. And what I said was that, well, we're still in lockdown in a lot of Europe, or varying degrees of lockdown, so we need some entertainment. And I hope a blood sport like chess, which doesn't actually spill real blood, will be fun for you today. So I've got two games. They're both last round games, in fact, and they're both actually played over the board. So the first one is from the Swedish League, which was in Stockholm, or somewhere near Stockholm, in Stockholm I think, and it's a game I happened to see. I was playing through games sort of in a very desultory way online, and suddenly here was a complete hack. So I think we'll give it to black. It's a Dutch last round game, Swedish guy just under 2500 against Solodovnichenko. Yuri is that. I guess he must be Ukrainian if he's a Chenka, and he's a little bit rated a bit more. So it's actually a reverse Leningrad Dutch, which people play. Of course, if White was playing, White would probably already have been committed to c5, but because he's not, he can play c6. And this is quite a good system against the Leningrad, and here it's quite annoying because the queen is coming to b6 very quickly. Really quite an annoying position. And I had a blitz game a week or so later, or a couple of weeks after seeing this game, in which I played some reasonably decent blitz player. He says he's 2570, his proper rating, so he's a decent player. And what happened? He went queen e1. This is one interesting line. And you just take on b2. Very greedy. You win a big pawn for nothing very much. So there are some other lines. And a little while. Here's my blitz game. Guy played knight bd2. Check. He had to play d4. Because otherwise knight g4 is going to win material and get the knight. Yeah, it's going to be horrible. And I got a very good position here very quickly. I think, did the engine want to play c4 in this position, which is extraordinary to me. It can't have done, surely. Maybe it did. And I should have beaten this guy, but in fact we drew in the end. Yeah, I've nicked a pawn. I've got a huge advantage. But I somehow managed to mess this up and draw with this guy, which is hardly a big deal, but there we are. It showed that it's a nice line for black. This game, the game we're actually looking at, he went e3, queen b6 still, and White played queen e2, and I think he should have gone queen e1 here, because the difference is that then bishop g4 isn't a pin, because this is a nice move. Okay, you're giving up a bishop for a knight, but you've got every prospect of getting an e5, which is going to be jolly useful. Go with king h1, knight bd2, knight d7, h3, get this bishop sorted out, take, rook e8. Now you can play d4, but it's not particularly wonderful. I mean, I think maybe here he wants to go, and you know, black's very active. He hasn't got a bishop in c8, which is really quite a nice thing. It just gives him a lot of space. Can put rooks in the c file easily, play e6, bring his knights around, The bishop on c1 is really not a very beautiful piece at this moment. White does have the two bishops, but at this moment they're doing absolutely nothing. And clearly it's a very playable position for black, indeed. What actually happened was king h1, knight bd7, e4. So this is a move white wants to play. If you get an e4 and e5 and close the position, then he might get some central advantage. But the problem is that here he's got no real chance of doing that. And black is able to open the centre very easily. I mean, I suppose white could consider f5 pawn takes pawn and something like, well, h3 just loses to knight e4, but it just doesn't look like it works at all. So I suppose I should add, loses a pawn, if this, then this. I haven't even got an engine on at the moment. Knight takes this. Presumably is pretty devastating. Oh, do I have another game on? I've got another game on. This is my second game, so let's now put an engine on just. And it says, yeah, big advantage. By the way, I'm going to move this a little bit down the screen, make a bit more room in the screen. Yeah, let's move this a little bit down. Looks like a bit better, doesn't it? Okay. So that didn't happen. I don't know why actually this could be a bit further down, couldn't it? I might as well do some chess space gardening. That's still fine. I can still read that easily enough. Actually, maybe not. Maybe a tiny bit further up. So a tiny bit further up, and now I can read this more easily. Okay, so that's a line. So when e takes f4, g takes f4. I mean, the guy could play bishop takes, but you just stick pieces in the centre. Rook f8 or something. It's never going to be good for white. It may be playable-ish. And now he sticks his rook in the centre. And you look at this position, white isn't properly developed here. He went e5, which I guess was necessary. If bishop e3, there would have been knight e4, wouldn't there? Is that true? Knight h5, hitting the f4 pawn. Black has a lovely post on the h5 for the knight. Everything's a bit loose. And here white played the move he wanted to play. But it's a move that would be good if he had a good position. He doesn't, it turns out. And therefore it's... If you play a move that would be good if you had a good position, then if you ain't got a good position, it's going to make things worse for you. Because, logically, because you haven't got a good position, it just shouldn't work. And that's what happens here. Played bishop e3. Knight e4 was quite fun. And there's some lines. f6 here. Bishop e3, queen c7. There's a line that goes like this. I'd be tempted to play bishop f5 here, but I think bishop f5, queen e7, pawn takes pawn. Sorry, bishop f6 and pawn takes pawn. White plays bishop d4. So this sort of looks like the most natural thing to do to me. But bishop d4 is a good move. I don't know if knight f4 is possible here. It's not. I'm near the exchange down for decent compensation, obviously, but it's nothing special. I don't know, knight f4 must also be a reasonable move, I guess. He's saying bishop takes and knight d4, and saying, yeah, okay, giving reasonable positions. Bishop e3 was played, and Solodovnichenko played queen takes pawn and knight e4. And now he thought for about 25 minutes and played, you'd like to play knight e5, you'd like to smash the centre up. Get active. I mean, you don't have to. You could play a move like, I don't know, queen a3 or something, and presumably you'd be absolutely fine, but white would have compensation. Knight e5 is the move you want to play, but it's extremely complicated. And he made it work. He did some very good calculation this game, actually. Rook b1 was played. If pawn takes, then black actually takes with the queen. If knight takes, which you have to do really, there are too many boys in a row, take, then you just look at the e-file and these many white pieces. Bishop c, knight d7, sorry, bishop takes, and actually in fact rook takes e4 is even better apparently here, which isn't obvious. I mean, you can believe it. And at the moment black is a rook down, but he's attacking almost everything on the board. Also, the knight on h5. The knight on h5 is covering the f6 square, which is very important. It means there aren't any knight forks. Knight here, take, knight f6, rook e1. This is one possible line. I suppose white would take the a7 pawn. Black plays f5, and you've got to take this pawn. Got nothing else to do. Take here. And black should win. I mean, black's 2 pawns out, white's position is a wreck. Rook b1 doesn't help because he just played b5. Followed by rook a8. So the whole position is a disaster area for white. Obviously it could be a fight, but it's not going to be a very fair one. And there are some other lines. In fact, after takes, he went rook a b1. And now Solodovnichenko did play very quickly. He went take, and take. And the thing that this move does, the wonderful thing that this move does, is it attacks lots of pieces, but it gives you that square for either knight to make many, much different forks. And so suddenly this knight, from being on the sidelines and a good piece attacking f4, is now teeing up to play knight g3 check in a million different variations. And it's horrible, actually. It's a really horrible position for white, I would say. Because, you know, everything is en prise. He played queen d3. If queen f2, knight takes, bishop d4 is given here by me. Rook takes e4. Takes, I suppose. I mean, bishop takes, I suppose you go rook f4 and rook takes bishop and knight g3 check. So that's very simple. Bishop takes that. Rook takes this, queen somewhere, rook takes, resigns. Okay. And takes, check here. And you do a body count. White can play rook b7, but black has 3 pieces for the queen. The pieces are stable. And black is going to be checkmated, isn't he? I mean, white can play rook b7. You'll play c5, probably get your rook into the game, and eventually something awful will happen to white. White has almost 0 counterplay here. Almost nothing he can do really at all, I would think. Okay, white might get a passed a pawn, but he's going to be about 12 pawns down, isn't he? The engine is saying minus 4.22 or something. So he actually went to that way, takes, bishop d4, which is the best chance, I think. If rook b7, knight e3, queen e3, bishop f5, threaten to take, and to play knight f6. Take and play knight g3 as well. What have I got? I've got rook b4. Wondering if king b1 is g1 is a slightly less awful move. Well, you can play knight f4. You can't play knight f4. I'm talking rubbish. Sorry. You can do this, of course. Take here, c5. Take, and just bishop d4, and you get a winning rook ending. Rook e8. Sorry, you don't take, of course. What rubbish! You play rook takes rook. Overwrite. That's the end of that. And there are probably some other lines. King h2. Maybe there's king. There's king this way. King h2. And in this position, maybe you can play knight f4 first. I don't know if that's a good idea. Does that win easily? It must do. Knight f4 gets another tempo. Takes knight f6, he goes rook b4. Oh, no, of course, takes knight f6. You've got knight g4, haven't you? Take, knight f6, rook b4, knight to there, check. So that there are lots of horrible things that can happen. Rook b4, c5, rooks to there, bishop d4. And that wins even more material, because you're going to take an e4 and take and play knight g3 check. So you end up with 1 or 2 extra pieces or something. I mean, you know, it's a disaster. So he actually went bishop d4, and he managed to fight pretty well, white, in this game. Guy went bishop e2, that's a very nice move. There are other ways to play. The engine gives this one, which is rather fun. Takes, 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 f5. Queen back, takes. Well, I mean, if you just play a position, then you're going to lose pretty clearly. Because, you know, black's got two rooks, and he's going to have an attack, and so you try queen checks, rook f7, queen takes bishop. Bishop h3, you go e3. I mean, this, of course, is an engine line. And mates. And the other line goes... I mean, you could calculate this in a very good day. You wouldn't want to, of course. And wins. So, I mean, you know, you wouldn't play this obviously as black, but this also does win. But in fact, bishop e2 is a better move. Okay, of course you can't take because of the forks. Rook takes e4. Yeah. And the lovely rook e3, attacking the queen. So you could try to play queen takes rook and bishop takes rook, but I mean, black just ends up with more pieces than white, I think. So yeah, I mean, it's just not really very interesting. Queen takes, 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 takes. I think I looked at this a little bit with somebody, and obviously black is easily winning, though there might be a passed a pawn, which is a very, very mild pawn. You can probably go a6 here, actually. And with a minimum of care, black will win, obviously. So what happened was, he went queen c5, in fact. Queen d4, knight g3, check, king to here, knight f5 wins a big tempo. Oh, this is the line I was looking at. Same thing, yeah, okay. I'm not sure even if... So he went queen c5, takes, king g1, which is a good move. It stops all the forks. So let's stop here for a minute and think about it. Black at the moment has a rook and two pieces for a queen and an attack, but the game is continuing, and a lot of things are on prise now. And Solodovnichenko found a very, very nice move here. He found simply rook fe8, defending everybody. So now white can win a piece if he wants to, but it really isn't a great deal. If takes, he took. If takes, takes, hit, check. You can't take the knight because he gets mated, which is fairly obvious, I think. You start giving checks with the rook and you end up playing h5 check and rook g3 mate or something at the end. And now you just play knight f5 and he's on the back rank, and it's clear that black has a huge, huge attack, and white has, you know, white's king is naked, attacking with three pieces including a knight, and with the rook in the 7th rank. The engine is giving -6 or something. Yeah, I mean, okay, rook b7, because otherwise you're going to keep the queen side. And in fact, you can do this if you want to, which is nice. A pretty position. But, you know, even if you couldn't win with checks, which I hadn't noticed actually, I mean, if you just went rook d8, presumably is minus a lot as well. So let's just say forces mate. Simply d8. Yeah. So just go here. And it really isn't very interesting. I mean, you know, how are you going to possibly survive this? Can you go check? go check here and try to do this one. Is that faintly fighting? Oh, rook takes c2, exclaim. Sorry. So actually you'd have to go back, and now this is really irritating actually, that you can't double in the 7th rank yet. You have to play a few more moves, play h5 or something, and you should win, but it's not quite so good. It's very irritating that you can't. Okay. So, but a human. C3 check. B1 is annoying then. I mean, it's not so easy to see its mate annoying then. I'm sorry. I'm faffing around, aren't I, a little bit? Right, okay, anyway, what happened was he went rook b7. Black got his pieces out. I don't know if this is a good move. That does keep the extra material. Was there some other way to do this? You'd quite like... I mean, I imagine... Rook g3, that's nice because it pins the bishop, so it stops. And it does tee up for unpleasantnesses with bishop f3, doesn't it? Going queen d4 check. King f2, bishop a6 is a good move apparently. And now the knight comes to g4. I mean, basically black has a winning attack, but you have to be a little bit careful. What happened was check, knight f6. I don't know if that's a good move or not. Engine is saying king h6. King f2, which is necessary obviously because it's the only move you can see. Bishop a6, exclaim. Okay, that's actually a bit better, isn't it? Yeah, that is better because I mean the threat of bishop f3 is devastating there. f5 isn't a problem. Well, the threat of knight e3 rather, and rook takes and mates. So this would have been a bit simpler. And so he's just he got very short of times. Black. He had something like 30 seconds or 40 seconds with a 30 seconds increment, and he just decided he'd defend all his pieces because that's the sensible thing to do here. So presumably if bishop takes knight, you've got rook f3 check, haven't you? He actually played f5, took quite a long time, and then took. And so he's got a little bit of play. Good move, defending g7. Went queen d4 check. If rook checks king here, rook takes, then king g5 is the best move. Just getting the king up the board. Preparing rook g6, in some circumstances, making the king safe. And I think that wins fairly easily. You have to be, I mean, you have to be a little bit careful, of course, because it could go wrong still, but it shouldn't. You know, I mean, you've got so many pieces defending you, but it's all slightly uncomfortable. I think he should have done that, actually. And now black gets complete control. And white resigned. So this was a really rollicking battle. So it's slightly interesting in the opening that c6 was such an annoying move, and I said I used it myself in a blitz game afterwards. It's obviously of no importance to the blitz game in itself, but it's interesting that looking at stuff you can excuse me, find things that might be useful to you. And later on there were all these tactics. White basically kept on playing as though he had a good game when he palpably shouldn't have. And black, by sticking to his guns, that's a great move of course, was able to get this wonderful position. I mean, I think pawn takes, queen takes is actually a messier line. It's a harder line to calculate than I don't know, it's bishop d, the bishop d4 you can take, can't you? But because this one actually, white's got so many pieces on prise, that's already got a knight, both rooks are on prise, and there are a billion forks in g3. So it's not a very difficult thing to do, actually, to calculate that in this position. You're bound to have a good position. Bishop d4 was a very good try. It's the best he can do. Bishop e2 is a lovely move. I presume there are other ways to do it. Did we say knight f4 is also good? In fact, that's much messier. And no, rook e3 is a nice move as well. And eventually, okay, he had too many pieces. Of course, if bishop takes knight, you go check and you take and you defended all your boys with tempo. And then he won after this intermediate phase in which he slightly lost control but still had more pieces and was always winning. Just may not have felt like that at the time. The second game I've got is from the last round of the Tegernsee Masters, and this was a 10-player all-play-all. I've got Biden-Harris thing here, oh right, of Donchenko, which was won by Donchenko, but Vincent Kamer had to withdraw early on because a schoolmate of his had the coronavirus, so he had to self-isolate. So it was a 9-player tournament won by Donchenko, and in the last round they had this very violent game. Nguyen and Mendonca. Where are they from, these boys? I'm not actually sure where they're from. Let's have a look. So Nguyen is Czech, of course, and Mendonca is Mendoza, sorry, is from, is that India? Mendonca Leon Luke. I guess that means India, doesn't it? Rather than Indonesia. Okay. So this is a very violent game too. It's yeah, it'll be INA for it. I mean, they don't often take on c4 so early. I thought of getting some Karpov games together and things. He didn't play e4 in this position, Karpov. He played, I think I found a3, bishop d2 and rook d1 he played. So he didn't like e4. It's a bit too, maybe at least to hand-to-hand fighting a bit early for him. And anyway, this is one of the main lines. Knight d4 is critical. And normally they play g3, and I had a look, and there are a billion games, one of which I gave, which was a Nakamura against Geary from the Moscow Candidates Tournament. And I found some notes actually to that, but it's not relevant to this, so I left it. Okay, so he actually played knight f5. This guy, which is the Nguyen, and obviously this is a sacrifice. You sacrifice a pawn, but you have a beautiful knight. He went g6. Probably bishop. I think I'd have played bishop b8 because that's a lovely move. And you are a pawn up at the moment. Of course, the knight in f5 is a wonderful piece, but the knight in g4 is pretty annoying as well. And I don't think you can play e5 probably. Things will go wrong. Bishop f3, c5, knight d5. Knight takes b5 is a really bad idea because of knight e4 and everything blows up in your face. Bishop e4, you have the rather unpleasant queen f5 then. Splat. Presumably, let's just check. I assume there's nothing better than queen f5. Yep. So anyway, he went g6, which weakens his king side. It's not a stupid move, but it is. I would be very loath to weaken my king side with that. And then you are getting rid of the horse. f3 takes, and he went bishop c7, and the engine says you should go bishop e5, which makes a lot of sense because you really want to shore up the black squares here. Of course, it's a complete mess. Playing a position like this, you just have to decide what you're going to do and do it, really, I think. You can't, by the way, go knight g4, bishop g4, queen h4 because of bishop h3. That's annoying. Or can you? Knight, you can go knight g4, can you? I didn't know that. So if bishop takes, you just recapture. F takes, exclam. Exclam. I mean, every time I play through this, of course, I learn something more. Queen to there, question mark, is going to run into bishop h3, which is a catastrophe totale. Presumably there is bishop e5, but now we need one more good move, perhaps queen f2. Yes, that makes sense. Plus minus. So, but you could do this actually, and this is apparently okay. Rook f5 is given because you can't take the bishop, and bishop c7. Why is he not going queen h4? Because of bishop g5. Not bishop e5, in fact. Sorry, he can't, of course. Bishop c7. And not queen h4, question mark. So you see, what I do is, with an engine, I believe that it knows what it's talking about, but I will try to work out for myself what it's actually saying. So knight g4 actually was quite a good move. Interesting. He played bishop c7, bishop e5 as well. Bishop h6 is bad because of knight g4, I believe, is it? Knight e4, sorry. And now that covers bishop g5, of course, so that's bad. And actually bishop f4 is given, which is a pretty, not a move you'd want to play as best by the engine. And now black has a decentish blockade. And he's got queen h4 coming. I don't know if e5, I assume, is not too dangerous, because e5 is the move I'd be frightened about yeah, I mean, I'd be worried about e5 to get the horse in. c5, must stop the knight coming in. Bishop f3, trying to get the horse in. Check. Here, queen g5 given. Just really annoying move. I mean, I'm just following the engine at the moment. Check. And it's saying that you have to go queen f2. Well, king h1 obviously is the interesting move. Bishop takes. And you stop, and the knight does get in, but you've got some defence by now as black. Okay, so there are many, many lines, of course. He went there, bishop g5, and the engine says again, I mean, of course I've used an engine here, I mean, why wouldn't I? Rook f5, bishop c8, rook g5, check king h8, bishop e3. So let's do a body count first. 5 pawns each. White has bad e-pawn, but black looks pretty badly coordinated here. Looks pretty good for white. I mean, I don't like that diagonal d4 to h8 at all, and I don't really believe this position at all for him. It's saying plus over line. Bishop b6, bishop f4, rook g8, and probably rook af1 or something, rook d1. I mean, again, I may miss some big trick. I may miss that if rook f1 there's some knight e4 or knight g4 or something, that for some reason it probably will work, won't it? If rook f1 there's probably knight plus over line. Houdini says, and I don't know if people know that you can make a plus over line in here by doing 241 on the number pad. Is it not going to, maybe it isn't going to work on there. Should be Alt 241. Yup, there we are. White must avoid. Yeah. Knight takes g4. I must avoid rook f1. So rook d1, queen f8, rook takes, knight takes, some sensible move. Okay, very pleasant. h6, rook a d1. So this was given as bad by the engine I saw, a fairly baby engine, but actually e5 leads to something rather amusing. Queen takes f5, and now black has a beautiful move. How far am I from the diagram? Well, quite a long way. Sorry, I've gone up. Knight h5, beautiful move, because knight h7, bishop d3 is catastrophe total. But knight h5, pawn takes knight, bishop c8, but queen e4, queen e8. Now bishop d3, f5 is simply bad for white. I mean, this is a stunning piece of engine analysis, isn't it? Sometimes they hit you and you think, wow, it's nice that these things exist, however annoying they are. Rook a e1, take, bishop f3. Black can go bishop c3 if he wants. Clearly black is at least equal. Bishop c3 followed by bishop e6, and you're going to have every chance of being better, I would think. Maybe it'll end as a draw, who knows. Anyway, rook a d1, queen e7, queen c1, rook f d8. Makes sense. And here, have I missed some analysis here? I don't think I have. Sorry, it's hard to... there's so many lines. And now he played a stunning move. He played knight d5, basically just to keep the rook on the board, the rook and d1, and also so that the rooks wouldn't be exchanged. I mean, rook f5 actually, there's queen checks here, bishop b3 is a good move. Knight d5 is apparently the best move. And presumably e5 was threatened or something, or check. And there, I've got some very messy lines. e5's a great move, just making room for the knight. And this is better for white, of course, winning for white. Very, very messy line indeed. Okay, he went knight d5. I mean, things happen. Take. And here black had a misapprehension which lost the game. He needed to play bishop e5, and it turns out this is good for... It's not really possible to tell. Sorry, no, he didn't yet. He went knight e4. So bishop f6, queen c7, queen b6 would have led to some position. Probably about equal, I suppose. Black can take an a2, I think that might well do. And black's king is very slightly in danger if he can get an f6 and bishop d3 and try to do stuff, but he looks active enough. The double pawns aren't very pretty on b5 and b4. I imagine it ends up probably as a draw somehow, but who knows? The engine is saying equals. He played rook f5, and now apparently bishop e5 would have been good, which is not at all obvious. Bishop h4, bishop c8, rook to there. I mean, I'd like to play queen h6, but it just doesn't work apparently. Rook f2, queen d6. I'm giving this line, which is as soon as you play bishop f6, it's all going wrong, isn't it? And this is a winning position for black. Very complicated. He went knight e4. So I think what I'm trying to say is that you can't calculate these lines accurately at the board. Not unless maybe if you're one of the young guys and your brain isn't 100%. Maybe the young titans nowadays, if they really, really think about it, they can do it. People like Firouzja and, you know, the guys playing the candidates. But I would, in my prime, have been able to calculate a lot of this, but I'd have got some of it wrong. And what I would have tried to do is to find a sensible path through. And that, I think, is the most important thing. You have to assume that you're not, you may make mistakes, but if you can find a sensible path through, then that's okay. And here I would have worked out that knight e4 doesn't work, because after takes, White doesn't get king g1, knight e2 check, but king h2. And you can see why he could have missed that, because it is into the path of a discovered check. But of course, if knight takes bishop with check, queen takes bishop. So actually, it's not difficult to see that this is totally lost now for black. It just required, but I could see why you could miss it, because sometimes you miss moves, you just don't see they're legal. Last week with the game with Tony, there was a sequence I just didn't see was legal. And sometimes they work, of course, and machines do see this. But I think he should have done. I think knight e4, he may have thought he was winning when he played knight e4, actually. Because obviously if you don't have king h2, you're lost. But it's not difficult, and now he played check. Good move. I don't know if he needs to. Well, he gets the rook off prees, doesn't it? Prevents even... Maybe he thought he'd have a position. But I mean, king h3, knight takes rook, pawn takes, rook takes bishop, queen h6 is obviously going to be winning for white as well. It's quite clear. f5 is necessary for king h8. I assume he'd just have gone king h3 at some moment. So king h8 gets mated in one move, doesn't it? So that it really isn't worth doing. A knight e4 check. King h3, rook e7, rook h5. Yeah, I mean, it's just not going to work, is it? It's clear that you're attacking and the guy isn't. And he's got rook and bishop, but he's got no attack. Sensible moves, and he took the bishop. I mean, bishop e5 can't be the best move, but doesn't matter, because now you have rook f7 to check and rook takes bishop, and that is the end of the game. So another fantastic game, and I said a maelstrom of a game, which both players' heads must have been swimming. Both made decent, and I might as well, both made decent decisions until near the end, when rook d takes f5 was very plausible but wrong, and knight takes e4 a decisive blunder. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed these extremely violent games, and I'm going to stop now. And in a fortnight, if anybody has any ideas for what to do in a fortnight, then please send me an email at jonathan@jspeelman.co.uk. Otherwise, I shall think of something else to do. Good. Okay, cheers then. Bye.